Creators have this false belief that they need tens of thousands of followers in order to be successful. And it's just not true. The idea that you can't be successful until you reach a certain milestone is a limiting belief that held me back for a decade.
Hey, welcome back to the Public Show. In this episode, I have Daren here, who is a film producer who turned into a creator. But maybe I should say online entrepreneur, because when we say creator, it's usually more creative. But I feel like his business mind is just absolutely brilliant. In this episode, we talk about three main things. Number one, how you don't need to sell your own courses to make online income. Number two, how writing in public can speed up your time to publish so that you can also be like Daren and me and publish your own book. And number three, why creators don't need a massive audience to be successful. I think you're going to find Daren's story super inspiring, so let's go. All right, today I have Daren with me here, and guys, I'm super excited to talk to him because I think it was a couple months back, maybe even more so. We first met each other because Daren was spending an hour live helping me out with my book. So I am super thankful for his time, and I'm excited because he seems to be this like Superman doing a lot of things, films and then side business, creator business. I just want to learn from him. So excited to have you here, Daren.
Thanks so much, Kevon. And man, dude, believe it or not, that was over a year ago that we
Really?
had that conversation where, because we were both in Rob Fitzpatrick's nonfiction authors group.
Mm-hmm.
And we were both starting to work on our ideas for our books. And I was just like diving in that community, trying to be as helpful as possible and kind of make a splash because I wanted people to help me too. So I figure help. And then maybe some of that will come back. And it was so fun because we went through like line by line on your table of contents. And it was so great to just dive in and see where other people were in the process of writing books. And it inspired me to keep going on mine. And it was a fun time. So I was so glad we're connected because now whenever we get to chat, I'm like, hey, it's my buddy, come on.
Yeah, it's just fascinating how that 1 hour can kick so many things off.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the power of helping people out first.
Mm-hmm.
I usually like to start off the public show with nothing business. Like, let's get to know Daren first. So quickly, like, how would you describe yourself? Like, who are you? Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, if I'm not strictly talking business, then very first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I have 3 young boys. They're 8, 9, and 11. And that's the reason I do everything in my life is for them, so they can have more time with them, so I can be more present with them, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also a man of faith, so I consider myself Christian, and I'm very active in the church. And so those are things that I don't normally talk about on business podcasts, but I'm glad you asked because they're very much a big part of my identity. And then when we get into the business side of things, I'm a creative entrepreneur. And so I like that terminology because it shows that I'm both a business person and a creative. I would say probably 60%, 40% business creative. I'm not pure creative by any means. Otherwise, I don't think I would have the success I've found in my business life. But my main gig where I make most of my money is as a film and TV producer. So I did 4 seasons of a television show back in 2018 and 19. And then in 2020 shifted to film producing and did my first feature in 2021, did 2 movies this year, and I've got a few lined up for next year. So that's kind of the main creator gig. And then as a side business, I started a company called Craftsman Creative right at the beginning of the pandemic. I started creating these online courses for creators to help them with their businesses, and it kind of grew into a business of its own. So I haven't talked about this yet, but in the next about 6 weeks, I'm going to be splitting that course business off from Craftsman Creative and creating its own business so that I can give it more time and attention, bring on some partners, and it has a life of its own at that point. So it's kind of grown to this 6-figure business over 2.5 years. And it's been this fun side hustle to like have a creative output with courses, with writing a book, with all the other content that I put out. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, you have 3 boys. I think I have 2 girls. Like, one is coming. Maybe because we're both very family oriented. That's why we click. Yeah. So you mentioned your main gig is filming, film director. So I just want to know the story. Like, what makes you started this side hustle, creative business, Craftsman Creative? What
Yeah.
happened there?
So yeah, I work as a film producer. So I don't direct. I'm not an actor. I don't do any post-production anymore. I used to do some of those things like post-production sound and editing and stuff like that. But as a producer, I'm kind of the CEO of a company. And you can think of I mean, you have a background in startups and stuff like that. You know what hours look like when you're like a CEO or you're a high level employee of a company. So imagine a movie as a 100-person company that you spin up and spin down in 3 months. And by the end of those 3 months, you need to have created like version one of your product so that it can be handed off to the editing and post-production team for version two so that it can be sold within a year or so. Like it's a very quick turnaround. And because of that, as a producer who's the CEO of this company, essentially, you're working 80-hour weeks. And so the first movie I did, I was killing myself. I was doing way too many jobs. I took on too much. I was getting paid too little. But I did it because it was an important stepping stone in my career to become a film producer. So I totally would have done it again. But working 8 weeks, some of those weeks away from home, even though I was like an hour and a half from my house, I was filming in Park City, Utah. I live in Provo, but I was staying up in Park City because it didn't make sense to drive an hour or hour 15 minutes home and then drive back the next day after I already worked a 16-hour day. It made no sense. So I was staying up there for like 5 weeks away from my family, long hours. And I got to the end of that going, man, I know that I want to be a film producer, but I definitely don't want to be doing this full time 365 days a year. That's not the lifestyle that I want because I have this family life. So I sat and I asked myself, well, what do I want my life to look like? And I realized that, man, it'd be really sweet to do like 2 movies a year. That's what I think my family could handle. It's what I think I could handle. And I have this other creative side business with Craftsman Creative that I really would like to try my hand at, see if I can succeed as like a content entrepreneur. So it was over the summer of 2021 that I kind of was thinking through all this. And then in the fall is when I decided to write a book in public, kind of really throw my hat in the ring and say, I'm a creator. I'm a writer. I'm a content creator. I have this business that I'm growing and I'm going to teach other people how to do the same. And the goal is to grow that to be like a $10,000 a month thing so that I don't have to do film production every month of the year. I can do it 4 to 6 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm. So your approach to do that is very different from most creators that I see, because most creators that I see, probably my approach, like we create a ton of content, we sell our own products. But when I look at yours, it's interesting because you actually build a platform and you help people build their courses first.
Yeah.
What made you kind of go that route?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a function of like just reality, right? So I launched 2 of my own courses right at the beginning of the pandemic in April and May of 2020. Perfect time to start a new business, right? Everyone was spending money. No, it was quite the opposite. People were not. And I realized, I had this stark realization at the time that I do not have an audience that sees me as someone that they want to buy courses from. I sold like maybe a dozen between the 2 courses that I launched. Now, granted, the first one I've launched at like $250, which was a high price point, especially for not having an audience. The second one I ended up just releasing for free because I wanted my creative friends to have the content, which was like, here's how to build the foundation for your creative business so that you're not suffering. Who knows how long this pandemic thing's going to be going on. You got to get your business in order, right? So I just released that one for free at the time. Mm-hmm. But within that first month, I realized, wow, 12 courses, half of them being given away or whatever it's not going to support my family anytime soon. And I had been furloughed for the summer from the pandemic. We were stopped down. We were supposed to film the season of television in April of 2020. And 3 weeks before we stopped down, and 4 months later we went back. So what happened was I realized I didn't have an audience, a big enough audience to justify like the amount of money I wanted to be making. I went to another creator who had an audience and I said, hey, do you have any interest in doing an online course? I think you'd be great at it. And she said, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do an online course for forever, but I don't know how to do all the things you know how to do. I don't know how to film and edit and set up a website and do the hosting and the payments and all that stuff. I don't know any of that stuff. I said, great. Well, why don't we do this? I've set up the platform. I know how to do all the filming and stuff because of my background. Why don't I show up? We'll film it in a day and we'll just split the revenue 50-50. She's like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, that sounds amazing. A month later, we had her course on the site. And in her first week of sales, this is May of 2020, her first week, she did $10,000 in sales. So that to me was the model right from the very beginning. It was this moment of grace, this serendipity that everything came together. But I decided at that moment, the model is not me creating courses. The model is me being a producer and creating courses for other people who already have the audience, because that makes the selling so much easier. So
Yeah.
I've had courses do 25,000 in the first week because they have a much bigger audience. They're excited and hungry to consume this course that they've created and learn from this creator. And it's amazing. I don't have to have a 25,000 person audience in order to do $25,000 in sales. I can just partner with somebody else. And what's great about it is that that partnership lasts for forever. Instead of them just paying me one time to produce it as a vendor, we're partners. And so the more that I invest in the business and the more marketing I do, the more sales that happens, and vice versa. So it benefits both of us when we invest time and effort into those courses.
I love it. Love that you're kind of experimenting and following the signals and discovering this new thing. Like, if you ask me, I would always think people have a huge audience. They know how to create courses. I never thought they don't know how to. So that's a nice gap.
I would say it's probably less than 5% of content creators with large audiences that have all the tools and skills that they need to produce a successful course. And so being able to step in and say, look, I'll partner with you and do that. And it's been really, really fun to do it that way.
That's amazing. And the other day I read your interview with ConvertKit, and then you talked about like a lot of automation in the business where you generate leads for this creator, and then somehow you can sell the person maybe another course from another creator. So I'm just really curious, how did you set up all those automation? Is there like an example you can share where someone comes in, what do they do, blah, 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 and then what do they buy something or something? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So an email first strategy is something I knew I wanted to build with this business specifically. I value email much more than I value Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or any of those social media platforms, mainly because I've seen friends who had 3 million fans on Facebook go from like multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to like $20,000 a month in revenue because the algorithm changed. So we've seen it this year with Instagram. Everybody's complaining because Instagram doesn't show photos anymore. It's all video based.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a photographer and all you post is photos, all of a sudden your exposure, your impressions, your engagement is down, and there's nothing you can do about it except, play to the whims and feed the machine that is that platform. So I knew from the get-go that I wanted to build an email first business. And I have built email lists for, 15 years at this point. So I kind of have a background in it. A lot of the strategy comes from this website called tinylittle.businesses.com. Andre Chaperone is a master email marketer. He's the founder of Tiny Little Businesses. And their courses, I own all of them. They've now bundled it into what they call the modern marketing system. So if you're interested in implementing what I've done, it's that. It's not my own strategy by any means. And so what it looks like, though, is a way for people to get many different touches as far as marketing goes, many different opportunities to engage with them in an automated fashion. Because if I'm going to go away for 2 months and produce a movie, that means I'm not spending time every day engaging with people on social media, replying to every email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't have the business just go to zero when I'm off doing a movie. So I needed kind of this like army of robots, so to speak, working in the background, doing all of these automations for me so that people feel like they're getting engaged every day and they're being taken on a journey and being pulled to the outcome that they want without me having to manually do it for every single person. So I could open up like ConvertKit right now, and there's probably 50 or 70 people that are going through some sort of email sequence right now. Every day they're getting an email. And what that does is it kind of goes back to what you said. It's looking at signals and then responding to those signals. So my emails are not sales emails. I don't sell to people until they raise their hand by clicking on a link and say, I would like to buy this thing or learn more about this thing that you're selling. I never go to them just out of the blue and say, buy this thing, discount now, 3 days only, it ends in 24 hours. I don't do any of that crap because we've been fed that for like 2 decades. We're so tired of that kind of marketing. And so what I do instead is very story-based and outcome-based email sequences. And so what I'll do when someone creates a new course, one of the first things that I'll do once the course is ready to launch is create like a 5-day free email series. Because if someone's coming from Instagram, for example, to a landing page about a course, the likelihood that they're going to spend $200, $300, $500 on a brand new course from Instagram is very, very low. But the likelihood that they'll sign up for a free 5-day email series that teaches some of the content in the course is very high. So I'll see maybe it's 0.8 to 1% conversion rate on first-time visitors, but I'll get a 20 to 35% conversion rate on the free email series. And what that means is now 20 to 35 of every 100 people that come to the website put in their email address, and then they are given every single day like a 5-day email sequence. And what that does is it's not just sharing information, but it's creating value for them and their business and ultimately creating a desire to purchase the course. Because, wow, if the free emails that are 5 minutes each are this valuable, I can't imagine how valuable this course is. And you're giving them more time to think about purchasing, seeing themselves as someone who purchases this course. And so instead of just a 1% or less conversion rate because people come to the site and they only 1% buy, now I'm in the 3 to 5% conversion rate. And then I'm giving people an opportunity to be given marketing materials and more value over months and months. I'll build out that 5-day email sequence, but then here's another email 2 weeks later, and here's another one a month later, and here's one every 2 weeks or so to keep them engaged. And that way, maybe they're ready 3 months later, or 6 months later, or a year later. I've had people on my email list who have purchased my course 2 years after they signed up.
By an automated email?
Because of an automated email.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so using email as the basis of my business has allowed me to engage people for a much longer period of time and help them purchase on their timetable. So I don't sell to them until they click on a link that says, check out the course or something like that, which shows that they're maybe interested. That's when I can send them a different, more of a sales sequence that says, let me tell you about the course and why and how it'll change your business and the value it has. And it only shows up when they're ready. So it might be at the end of that first 5-day sequence. It might be 6 months or 12 months later, but I'm able to do that because of email.
Yeah, I'm so glad you say this, Daren, because my audience, a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, creators, and I see a lot of them just focus on social media, which is okay on day one, but very immediately you have to work with the email list. So without that, you cannot capture any interest. So my growth was actually driven by my 5-day email course, Making Twitter Friends too. So your tip is like, your sharing here is like so on point. A lot of people need to hear this.
Well, look, every business needs 3 things. You need awareness, engagement, and conversion, right? If you want a big following on social media, you can do that just by focusing on social media. But vanity metrics like impressions and engagement and followers and growth and blah, 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 don't translate automatically to dollars in your bank account for your business. And so what you need to be able to do is start thinking like a business owner and go, okay, how am I going to turn these new Twitter followers or Instagram followers or TikTok views into email subscribers? So you get them off the platform onto a platform that you own so you can engage with them on your terms, not on the algorithm's terms. And then you can systematically bring them closer to becoming a customer by providing more and more and more value over time through email. Because if you never take someone from awareness, meaning they saw your video on TikTok, to a customer, then you don't have a business. You don't have any mechanism or any system in place to convert people from attention to engagement to actual customers and clients, which is what we're here for if we're creative entrepreneurs, as opposed to just influencers or people online that are trying to build big audiences.
Exactly. Yeah. We're just leaving it to chance. Like if Twitter is going to show that launch tweet or no, which transitions really nicely to this like next part of the show, which is writing your book in public, because you did such a phenomenal job, writing each chapter at a time and making it a public blog post. So a big part of it is how you have the awareness and then funnel people down into your list. So I want to hear more about it. So you wrote the book. This is your Write in Public project, right? Yeah. Back in 2021 to 2022?
Yeah, like August to November of 21 is when I wrote the book.
I have seen people writing in public. I've done it myself, but not to your level where you share all the chapters. How do you think about it? Yeah, how do you come up with this strategy or tactic?
Well, it's very much a mindset shift, right? And I had the benefit of I wasn't working full time. And so I didn't have like a film project. I had a couple of short films and a couple of commercials that I did during that time that paid the bills, but I wasn't like working 40, 60, 80 hours a week on any project. So I had time, which was a huge benefit. And not everybody has that. I understand. But the first mindset shift was, okay, I can write 1,000-word blog post very easily. And I'd been doing that for, once a week or once a month for like a decade. So I had the skill and the habit of writing 1,000 to 2,000 words in a single session and being able to have it pretty much ready to launch. Like I didn't in this first iteration of the book, I didn't edit anything. I would write it in an hour and then I would publish it same day. So I didn't edit it. I went back and edited it later with an actual editor when the book was compiled. But the first mindset shift was, if I just call a blog post a chapter of my book and I write with the focus of a table of contents, then all of a sudden I'm writing in public and I'm building a product as I go, instead of this kind of randomized collection of thoughts and ideas and stories that's a blog. All I did was say, here's a table of contents of a book that I'm working on. And every day I'm just going to change one of these table of contents titles into a link that leads to a blog post. And after 3 months, I had 33 or 35 chapters of the book and it was done and ready to go. And to this day, that version of the book is free to read on my blog. You can read the entire book for free. Now, once I had it all compiled, that's when I hired an editor, I hired a designer, I did the interior layout, the exterior cover, and I did a proper book launch in April of this year with that version of the book. And that's the only thing I charge for, is just the format, whether you want it digitally or as an ebook or PDF, or someday I'll finish the audio book, which I promised 6 months ago, or you can get it in paperback and hardback. So the content is always free because it's on the blog, but the book, the format, is what you pay for. So there were just a few mindset shifts in there that it was like, I'm doing the same amount of work, I'm just calling it something else, and I'm focusing it into a project rather than, randomly just writing blog posts every week. And when you do that, it's crazy how quickly you can get a project put together.
Yeah, I'm just imagining what my audience would ask you right now, which is, but if you have all the public blog posts, why do they need to buy your book? So how would you respond to that question?
Yeah, they don't. They don't need to buy my book, because the purpose of writing the book was not to make money. I'm not aspiring to be someone who makes a full-time living on an author's sales of books, right? That would be nice. And someday maybe I'll work with a publisher, and someday I'll do big, awesome book launches and sell 10, 20, 30,000 copies in the first few months. Cool. If that happens, great. That's not what I'm aspiring to become. And so my business is very much built on contribution and growth and helping creators. And so I would much prefer to give 500-600 copies of my book out to creators to make sure that it gets out into the world than trying to spend years and years and years getting a book deal with a publisher so that I have permission to write my book and then get it out into the world. And I actually did that. I took my book and I printed copies myself, and then there's a company called Lulu that does the print on demand for me, and I've actually partnered with them on the second time around that I did this. But I printed like 300 copies of the book myself, paid for the printing, shipped them to my house, put little inserts in every single one of them, and then shipped them off to a conference so that it could be in the swag bag of every single attendee of the conference out of my own pocket. So it's like $1,500 that I spent doing that. Thankfully, Lulu offered to do that for me on the second time, so I saved that $1,500. But I manually, like physically myself, spent money to give away 600 copies of my book.
Wow.
I've maybe only sold like 75 or 100 at this point. And so, but if you look at the number of people that have joined my email list over the last year since I started writing that, it's well over 1,000 people. And so that's what matters to me right now. The whole point of the book was to launch my career as a creative entrepreneur and to be like a content-based entrepreneur in this space. And it mattered way more to build up my email list and to get awareness, and rather than to try to make $20 every time I sell a copy of the book.
Yeah, I think a lot of creators need to understand not every product needs to make money. Some can just be free, or not free, but you give away for free, or for credibility building. So this is a great example to that. I'm a big fan of getting feedback. That's why I invited you to help me out for that 1 hour to read my table of contents. Yeah. Did you find that by putting all these chapters out for free in public, did you get any feedback back so that you can, improve the writing for the future chapters? Did that happen?
Yes. And again, going back to the fact that my audience is small, I didn't get tons of feedback. But what I did see was signals. And this is a recurring theme in this conversation, it looks like, where you're putting out work, you're doing creative work on a consistent basis, you're doing it in public, and then you look for signals. Like, what are the things that show you that you're on the right track? So the thing that started happening when I started sharing these blog posts as chapters 3 times a week was big accounts on Twitter started picking it up and either retweeting it and sharing it with their audience. And even more so, there were a handful of big accounts that gravitated towards different chapters and added a link to it in their newsletter. So I had links from Josh Spector, who's got an email list of like 20,000 people, Arvid Kahl, who's in the 10 to 13,000 people, Justin Moore, who has like 5,000 people on his email list. There were a handful of people, yourself included, that gravitated to different chapters, read it, and went, oh my gosh, my audience needs to read this. So they shared it without being asked. It didn't require any like outreach on my part. They just did it. But it's because I wrote 30 chapters that there were 4 or 5 of them that resonated enough to motivate people to do that and share it with their audience. But when those things happen, man, when Josh Spector shared a link, it was like 1,500 people visited my site in 3 days, and I got 85 new email signups. Like, that was free. But it's because I was doing that work in public and sharing valuable information. And so I knew I was on the right track because those signals were happening. About once every section of the book, every 5 or 6 chapters, one of them would resonate. Someone would pick it up, share it with their audience. And I was like, okay, I'm doing what I want. Like, it's working because I'm having the desired effect, which is word of mouth, people sharing it, et cetera, et cetera.
And I guess the signals, like telling you which 4 to 5 chapters work the best, will kind of give you ideas on what else to create in the future, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it informed my landing page for the book. It informed what blog posts or chapters I highlighted on the homepage. So I can say, like, here's some featured posts. Well, it's the best chapters from the book that people resonated the most with. And then when I built the email series, I was including free chapters of the book. Well, guess which ones I included? The ones that were the best. So I know that, like, the sales ladder and the 3 personas chapter, and there's like 3, 4, 5 chapters that I included because those are the ones that people were sharing and getting the most retweets and the most likes and most comments on Twitter. So those signals actually informed the business that I wanted to make. So I didn't have to just guess. I knew what was working. I knew what people liked, and I knew what motivated people to take the next step and engage deeper and deeper with my business.
Yeah, I love it. So sometimes feedback is not about rewriting all the chapters. It's actually about highlighting the best for marketing purpose. That's
Yeah.
great.
I got to
You know,
share too that there's
yeah,
one
please
other
do.
thing about this, because so many people have ideas for books, right?
Uh-huh.
So many
Yeah.
creators, especially, we have ideas all the time. If you looked at the list on my computer of like ideas to someday do, it's like 100 ideas long. I'll never get to all of them, but that's okay. That's a story for another day. But we creators, we have ideas all the time. So every one of us has an idea for a book, and probably what 90 to 95% of us will never write that book. And the reason is we think it has to be perfect
Yeah.
before it goes out into the world. And I would challenge you so hard on that assumption, because I have a book out in the world that 1,000 people have read because I did it. And it was imperfect. And every time I wrote a blog post, there were spelling errors and grammatical errors and formatting errors, and nobody cared, because what they cared about was, how does this help me?
Yeah.
And every 3 to 5 chapters, there was something in there that helped them, to the point where they're like, wow, this not only helps me, I want to share it with my audience. And that made it better. And then I hired an editor, and that made it better. And then I had proofreaders read it, and that made it better. And every step of the way, it got better, 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 better. If you read my book, like if you grab a copy now, the current version of it that I have printed, that I have like half a box still of, the cover art on the front cover is shifted about 1/4 of an inch to the left, and it's off center. I don't care. Does it make the book less valuable? No. Does it show, like, is it imperfect? Yes. But guess what? I have a book out in the world that people can read and benefit from. And I don't want to be harsh here, but like, if you haven't written your book, you don't. So if your goal is to reach an audience of people and give value to them and help them feel a certain way or accomplish a certain outcome, and you're holding your book back because you feel like you need to wait for permission from some publisher, or for it to be the perfectly written thing, or you don't have the money to hire blah, 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 guess what? You don't need any of those things to write and publish a book anymore.
Totally.
There is the permissionless thing. So I challenge you, between now and the end of the year, to write your book. You can do it in 30 to 90 days, and you can put it out on the internet as an ebook or a PDF, or you can go and use like a Lulu integration to print it. Costs you nothing out of pocket. It costs when you print it, and you just include that in the cost of the book. It's nothing out of pocket. So there's no excuses anymore to be holding on to a book that you could put out in the world. Just go do it, please. I want to read it.
Yeah, you know what? I got my book back. I ordered 10 paperback and it arrived yesterday. So I unboxed it with my daughter. And, thanks for saying that, because if I can publish a book and I'm not a native speaker and I didn't hire an editor, so my wife was my editor and I used Grammarly, that's it. And I'm sure there's tons of mistake in there. So if I can do it, everyone can do it. I think the fear is, oh my God, there's a physical item with my work in it and you cannot change it. Courses, digital products, you can change it anytime, but this you cannot. Daren has done it. Kavan has done it. All of you watching this should do it too. Yeah. All the books version can be all different and really no one cares. So good. Let's see. So, Daren, one thing I think you're really good at, and a lot of new creators are learning, is that, when we build in public, when we are on Twitter or whatever platform they're on, we're always just talking, and we don't think about how to capture those interests. But I think you do a good job by, always embedding an entry point into something else. What's your best tactic in terms of capturing that interest, and perhaps not be overly, doing it with your public audience?
Yeah, there's a mindset shift there as well. So I don't do it on every single post. There's a lot of creators right now that have they'll send out a tweet, and then the follow-up automatic plug is like, if you like this tweet, go ahead and check out my email. Okay, but no, that's too much, right? Years ago, Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, which basically is like a ratio of give 3 to 4 times for every time that you ask. And so if you're asking something on every single tweet or post, it's too much. And so there's a few ways to do it, but the overarching principle the way I like to look at social media and email for that matter is that I'm opening a door for people and inviting them to come in when they're ready. So there's no salesy pushiness. There's nothing like get this now or else. There's no deadline funnels. There's none of that crap in there. It's literally just I'm opening the door as often as possible so that when people are ready, they can take a step in. And once they come in, I've created a really awesome experience. So it's not a car dealership where as soon as you step in the door, hey, how can I help you today? What kind of car are you looking for? Red or blue or minivan or mini truck or whatever. No, I don't sell at all. I basically hand them a little pamphlet that says, here's everything that we have to offer. Explore at your own leisure. Come in and come out whenever you want. Stop by. And if you have questions, here's my personal contact info, right? That's kind of how I see this whole process of getting people from a platform into email and into buying one of my products. And so there's 2 times that I will like strategically put a call to action at the end of like a thread. And so I follow Justin Welsh's Content OS. His course is amazing, and it's such a systematic approach to whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't think it works as well on other platforms like maybe Facebook, but definitely not TikTok, Instagram, because you can't like embed links and comments and stuff like that. There's different strategies for those kind of platforms, but I also don't like those platforms. So
same here.
I chose Twitter and LinkedIn because they're much more text-based, and I like that I can just engage with people really easily and put links to things really easily. So I have a content system that's very similar to what Justin has built for his business. He just is much more of a tactician and has spent more time on it the last few years. So I'm following his method, which basically is I'm writing and creating like core pieces of content a few times a week. I have a newsletter that goes out every Monday that also becomes the blog post for the week. So that's like 2 pieces of hero content. And then in the past, I've done podcasts. I kind of took a break because I was producing a film overseas for a few months this summer. And so I'm getting back into that. And I have like a fun surprise coming in the next few weeks, a collaborative podcast that I'm doing with another big creator. So I'll have like 1 or 2 big pieces of content every week. And what I'll do is I'll systematically break that content down into like smaller chunks that are more valuable for social media. As we all know, you post a link to your blog post on any platform and the platform goes, well, we don't want to promote that because then people leave our platform. And so you kind of have to strategically go about how do you get people to see that and click on that where the platform itself isn't like hurting you because you put a link in something. And so the way I've chosen to do that is through threads. And threads are basically like a collection of tweets that you read in order. The way you write it is that it's just one tweet after another, so that when you tap on that first tweet, it opens up the whole thread and you can read it almost like a blog post that's broken up into 280 or less characters per tweet. And so I'll take the big blog post or the podcast, and then I'll break it down into like a Twitter formatted version. And I'll hold some back and I'll kind of shrink it down. So it's kind of the big idea, but without all the details, so that by the end, I'm saying, if this resonates with you, if it's something you want to learn more about, here's an open door for you, right? Going back to that principle, I've opened a door. It's not buy now. It's not sign up and get this. It's literally just click on this link and there's more info there. And then when they go there, there's an email capture form at the top and the bottom that says, hey, if you want posts like this every week in your inbox, whenever you're ready, go ahead. There's no like slimy, there's no selling. It's just like, here's an open door. Here's another open door. Here's another open door. And I just do that all the time. But I don't do it with every single tweet and every single post because it would be too much. So the other thing that I know you talk a lot about with your content and as far as Twitter goes is making sure that your profile is set up as a really welcoming way for people to go, oh, I've never seen this before. So-and-so friend of mine retweeted this tweet or this thread. Who is this guy? Well, what are they going to do? They're going to click on your face and then that opens up your profile. Yeah. Well, what do you want people to see and feel and know when they click on your profile? Well, they want to know who you are. They're self-interested, so they want to know what's in it for them. Yeah. So they don't care for me that I'm husband, father of 3, Christian, blah. They don't want all of my details. They want to know what's in it for them. So if you click on my bio or Kevon's profile or any of these other creators that have gone through this process, it's very much about them. It's like, if you're here, follow me because these are the things I post about, and this is how I can help you with my content. It's not pictures of pizza. It's not pictures of travel. It's, I'm here to help you get this outcome. And then it's a very specific call to action. Here's the next step. Click on this link, which takes them to my website. So even my pinned tweet is very similar. It's like it's almost social proof, right? It's got 100-something retweets. It's got hundreds of likes. And people go, oh, wow, people have paid attention to this guy.
Yeah.
They click on that and they go, wow, that was really good content. So then they go down the rabbit hole, start reading more of your stuff. And then it's about making sure that you're curating your feed so that when people start scrolling through your profile, it's not random politics here and random sports here and random religion here. It's value, 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 value. And they go, oh my gosh, I'm following this guy or girl, and I want to know everything about them. So you want to open the door, invite people in, make it a really cool experience for them, and be thinking about them the entire time, not about you. It's not about you. It's about them. If you can do that shit, you'll be much better off.
I think your style is so natural and not pushy that connects me to my next question, which is, when you're launching something, when you build in public enough and you're ready to get that out, endorsement, you mentioned a lot of big names like Josh, Arvid, Justin. A lot of people actually don't know how to get those endorsements, but you're really good at, helping people first, for example, helping me and then getting the help back. Any advice for people to get those endorsements for their launch?
Yeah, treat people like a client or a customer before any money has changed hands. That's the mantra. So I don't wait for someone to become a customer to be helpful to them. There's another gal that I connected with 6 or 8 months ago. Her name's April Lynn Alter. And she's on Twitter as well. She's a big creator. She built up like a 10 or 20,000 subscriber YouTube channel in like 6 months from scratch. Like, she's crazy. And she's like 23. Like, stop being so good at life, April Lynn. So,
I was just with her an hour ago.
Oh, no way.
we collaborate on some Ask Me Anything sessions. Yeah.
There you go. Right. So she's great. She's amazing. Love her. So I remember seeing, it was probably someone like you or Arvid or some other creator that I was following and connected with that shared or commented on one of her tweets. And her tweet was like, I'm up for this big negotiation with a company that I'm thinking about coming in for, and I need help. And so I jumped in because I'm like, I know how to help. So I jumped in and gave like 3 big long answers in threads. And then I said, I'm more than happy to chat through the details of this because I know it's kind of vague. My DMs are open, right? So she DMs me and she's like, oh my gosh, thanks. That was so helpful. And then I was, long messages in the DMs. And then I recorded like an 8 or 10 minute Loom video that said, here, let me just lay it all out for you because the texting thing is going to take forever. And I did that. It took probably a total amount of time of like 15 minutes between tweeting and DMing and recording a Loom video. Guess who has a follower for life? Me, because of all that value that I created for her early on. She was one of the early access members of my book when I launched the book and released like a special like pre-launch thing for $50. It was like you get a hard copy of the book and you lock in the $50 a year price to my community. 25, 30 people did that, but April's one of them because you can tie it all the way back to the value that I gave up front. Same thing with you. Like, I took, like you said, an hour on a YouTube video. There was no benefit to me other than I know I'm going to get better at giving feedback and helping people if I do that regularly. You get better at the things that you practice. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in the practice of helping people at least once a week. And it's okay if it takes 10 or 15 or 20 minutes or even an hour every once in a while. But look at the relationship that we have. Like, anytime you need anything, you can come to me and ask. And anytime I need help with anything, I know I can come to you. Not because you owe me, but because there's this shared like feeling of gratitude that we're in each other's lives, that we've helped each other, and et cetera, et cetera. And so it really comes to just being in a mindset of, I'm going to give value before I've received any value. You're not waiting for people to buy something in order to serve them. So the amount of times that I will give a huge long email reply to someone who DMs me or emails me out of the blue. It's every other day or every day that I do, here's a long thought out thing with links and resources and et cetera, because I know if I take 5 minutes now, I've got that person for years.
Yeah.
Because no other creator is doing that. So it's just a mindset shift about giving value first.
Yeah, and you gave me an hour, you have me for decades.
Yeah, pretty good
Yeah.
trade-off.
It is. It's fascinating because a lot of people don't think about this, like investing upfront. Like we talk about email list importance, but Twitter is a beautiful place for helping people and build those connections. And you showed us a few examples. Yeah, this is awesome. We talk a lot about the great stuff. So I do want to wrap it up here because.
Can I add one thing to that last
Of course.
thought?
Please
I
do.
think creators have this false belief that they need tens of thousands of followers in order to be successful. And it's just not true. So this whole year of content, the stuff I've been putting out online, the times I've been able to speak at conferences, things like that, even the new podcast collaboration I'm doing, it's all about you don't need a massive audience to be a successful creator. You can have a successful business with a few hundred email subscribers, with a few hundred people in your community, with 10 clients as a freelancer, whatever it might be that you do. The idea that you can't be successful until you reach a certain milestone is a limiting belief that held me back for a decade, because I believed in order to be successful, I needed 10 or 100,000 email subscribers. I needed 50 or 100,000 followers on social media. And I know I don't have those things. I still don't have those things. But I built 6-figure businesses as a film producer with 3 clients to this date, right? Like I have a 6-figure a year business, and between 1 and 3 people hire me every year. I had a successful 6-figure business as a TV producer with 1 client a year. That was the TV show, right? So you don't need huge numbers to be a success in your business. But a lot of creators wait because they have this belief that they can't do the thing they want to do until they've reached this milestone. And it's just not true. And it's holding you back. And the world is worse off because we don't have your creativity and your art out in the world for us to connect with and to resonate with and to learn from. And so stop withholding your art and your creativity from the world because you think you have to wait. You don't. Start now, put it out there. It's okay if 5 people see it and then 50 people see it. This process, my approach to this whole thing is a slower process. But like we just talked about, the connections that I'm making are lifelong as opposed to artificial. Like if you talk about a creator with 50,000 Instagram followers, there's no way they have personal connections with all 50,000 people. But you know what? My email list of 2,500 people, I have intimate relationships with a few hundred of those people. And I have close relationships with another 100. And I have at least conversed with through email or through DM or with like the other 2,000 of them, right? Because that's the way I want to build my business. But I have a successful 6-figure, soon to be 6-figure creative business from an email list of like 2,500 people and a following of about the same number. You can do the same. You just have to shift your mindset a bit to think about it and approach it a different way. So I just felt that was important for your audience because so many creatives think they have to wait and you just don't.
Yeah, I think we tend to look at the wrong role models. We think, oh, those people are successful because of the large audience. No, it's about signals. I think the keyword today is signals and working with people right away. Yeah, thank you for wrapping up with such a beautiful message. Daren, I want to know, what else are you working on right now? We talk about the membership, the books. What are you working on? I want to know myself.
Oh man. Do you have another 45 minutes to chat about all the things?
Well, it's midnight over here, so.
Oh no! Okay, let's get you to bed soon. I'll wrap this into a bit of a psychology thing or a mindset thing too.
Okay.
Because I think so. When I started my business, when I really entered the arena as a creator, it was with the book, and in conjunction with that, I was writing in public. So I was using the book as a vehicle to grow my audience, grow my email list, get more visitors to my website, all those things. So it's a great vehicle for like reaching those outcomes. Now, I wanted a business. I didn't want to just be an author. I wanted to have a creative business. So if you look at my business, I got a lot of products, but I'll get to the point of it all, which is like the goal for the next year. So I have a book, I have a blog, I have a newsletter, I have a podcast, I have a community, I have coaching practice and a consulting practice, and I think that's everything. Some courses in there too.
An army.
Right? So I have like 7 different revenue streams. Now, if I were to go back and do this again, I would have done it differently, because the thing that's easy for me is building products. Creating those 7 different revenue streams took me less than a year. And so some of them took a day to say, oh, I want to have a coaching practice. Let me spin up a little landing page and a product and ConvertKit. And all of a sudden I have people paying me $1,000 a month for coaching. So that was not hard. Now I had to go through 10, 15 years of, being a successful business owner to justify people giving me $1,000 a month, but still the product took a day to create. So the reason I did it that way, again, is because it was easy. That was the path of least resistance, was for me to create a lot of products. But some of those products sell 0 every month. Some of those products sell 1 to 2 a month. And some of those products are limited to 1 a month. I can't produce 2 movies at the same time. I can only produce 1 at a time. I don't have space in my schedule for more than 1 or 2 coaching clients. I don't have space in my schedule for more than 1 consulting client. And I charge $1,000 a week for consulting clients. So there's limitations there for sure. And so the goal for the next year, the big project that I'm working on, is getting Craftsman Creative to where every single one of those 7 or whatever revenue streams are selling 1 a day. That's the entire focus. The principle is sell 1 a day. So that means I want to sell 1 book a day, at least. I want to sell 1 course a day. And that's different because it's like $150 instead of $20 for the book. Yeah. I want to always have at least 1 coaching client at $1,000 a month. I want to always have 1 consulting client at $1,000 a week. I always want to be working on a movie, which is 10 grand a month right now for me. And those 5 things, then you've got community, selling a community membership, which right now is $199 a year. If I did that every day, that'd be amazing. And I feel like there was one more that I'm missing, but I can't remember what it is. Maybe I talked about courses. Let's call it those 6, right?
Okay.
I've done the math. If I can sell either, like, there's binary on-off things of like, I either have 1 or I don't. If I have all of those things and I'm selling 1 a day of the products, that results in $25,000 to $27,000 a month in revenue as a 1-person creative business with like overhead of like $500.
Yeah.
So that's pretty decent. I don't need $25,000 a month to live a really good life.
Yeah.
I could do fine with 6 or 8. I probably do 10 right now, 10 to 12. So like there's some behind the scenes math of like why I'm thinking about it this way. Mm-hmm. But if I were to do it differently, or if I were going to do it again, I would have created 1 product first and then got it to 1 sale per day before I started on the next product. Because then I would have that revenue stream actually bringing in revenue every month. Whereas right now I've got 6 or 7 revenue streams and maybe 3 of them bring in revenue every month. So I've got products that I've spent time on and invested time and effort and money into that are sitting and doing nothing for my business. So now I've got to do the hard work of figuring out how to create demand for products that there currently isn't demand for, where it's much better to create the demand first and then service that demand before creating the product. So that's a lesson that I've learned on my own. I mean, that was a year of my life. And so I feel pretty good about creating 6 or 7 revenue streams in a year. I've also got like a new podcast coming in that's bringing in revenue. And I've also got another product that's specific to the film industry that's launching next month. So I will have probably 10 revenue streams at some point, but, and that's not including the courses that I do with other creators. So that's the numbers.
Right.
There you go. So I built too many things without focusing first on revenue and getting my business to the point where I have enough awareness and engagement to convert 1 sale a day of all those different products. Because had I done that, I would have been at $1,000 a month, then $3,000 a month, then $5,000 a month, then $8,000 a month. Whereas right now I'm trying to figure out how to go from like 1,000 to 10 overnight because like I want these products to be selling. So I would have done it a little bit differently, but you know, you can only do it the way you do it. So that's the way I did it. Now I got to kind of figure out what's next and how to get those all revenue generating every single day.
I think it's pretty common for creators to start off with creating many different products because we think, oh, we want to do a new launch to generate revenue. Let's create something new. But we don't really think about, hey, we can actually keep selling the same thing over and over again. We don't. But I think we're at the stage where we figured this out. And I look at the biggest creator or entrepreneur, they're always known for one thing. Like they have one product that is making the most money. The others are probably just like there. So that's also my belief, like focusing on one thing, which would be my cohort-based course. Like I have fun with that. So Daren, if someone wants to find out your work, is the book the best entry point? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say go to craftsmancreative.co. That's my website, and it has everything there. So it's a choose your own adventure. All the doors are open for you. So if you're a podcaster, go there. If you like books, go there. If you like blogs and newsletters, go there. Like it's all open. And a lot of it, most of it right now is free even. So do a deep dive. And if it's valuable, that's the point, to like sign up for the email list and the newsletter and to be able to get into some of the products that I've created. But start with the free stuff. There's dozens, maybe I'm at 100 now, blog posts that are on there from the last year that are all geared towards helping creators figure this stuff out. So start at craftsmancreative.co. And then if you're a social media person, I love Twitter. That's my place of choice. So come find me at Daren T. Smith on Twitter and send me a DM. Tell me you found me on the public show with Kevon, and it'll be awesome. It'll be great to hear.
I'll put all the links below so people can find you. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Daren, for joining me on this show. Exciting times. Yeah, thank you.